Welcome to the story of every man. Tonight we're gonna have Sarah and James with us. They just moved to the area, and we'll share a little bit about how we met and how I invited them to the podcast. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm gonna start with several of the basic questions. And just be yourself, and we'll enjoy it. So, James, how old are you?
I am 40 years old.
Okay, where were you born at, James?
I was born in Dallas,
Okay.
just south of downtown Dallas.
You've lived there your whole life?
I lived there until I was 18, and then I went to school in Arlington, and then we bought a house in Fort Worth. So I was moving slowly west, and then we took a giant leap east. So
Okay, good. Sarah, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but
I'm 38.
less
It's
than
fine.
me.
where were you born, Sarah?
I was actually born in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
And then we moved when I was 7 years old to Weatherford, Texas.
Okay. How did y'all end up in Texas?
My father's mother, so
Uh-huh.
my grandmother, lived there, and that's where he grew up. So
That is awesome. Okay, so tell me about y'all's meeting. How did this come about?
you go ahead.
You want me to tell that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was MySpace days. So this
Oh,
was
wow.
2007. And I rode a sport bike and was into like stunting and wheeling and stuff.
What kind of sports bike was that?
Well, I've mainly had Gixxers, GSXRs. And I actually had found her friend and had a crush on her friend. And I met her friend, and we love her friend to death, but she was a bit much. And every dude that had a sport bike was infatuated with her, and I just wasn't into the competition of that. So I actually hooked her up with one of my friends.
Oh.
And in exchange, I was like, well, clearly you need to hook me up with one of your friends. And so it was in October of 2007, and we were hanging out, and I shot her a text message from the girl's phone that said, I know it's early, but will you be my Valentine? And
From the other girl's phone.
Yeah.
And so we were really close friends. We
Yeah.
cheered together in high school. And so I wrote back and was like, wow, that's really crazy. I'm glad you didn't go out with him or, whatever.
No,
the
she
case
said,
was.
you get all the weirdos.
Oh, you get all the weirdos, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
She wrote back that she gets all the weirdos. So I said, well, I guess it's a good thing I didn't buy any flowers or candy. And then she called,
I
and
was like, what is going on here?
and so we briefly spoke, and I thought that it was a horrible play. Like I was like, I'm never gonna hear back from her again, and because I peeped her out on MySpace, and then the next day, I guess she had.
I don't know what it was. To this day I don't remember what happened, but I was like, hey, who's that guy that I was talking to? And
Was that back then? Like you have the top 10 people.
Yes,
on the
yes,
show?
yes.
top 8.
Oh, top 8. Okay.
Top 8.
Okay.
Tom, of course, was one of the top 8 always.
What's interesting though is that we spoke a ton. We text messaged a ton. I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship like this, but it was like that initial couple of weeks of hundreds of text messages,
Yes.
just constant through the day. And we were in college, so it was easier to do that. But what's interesting is, and I didn't find this out for quite some time, she thought I was someone else. So the girl had told her his name's James, he goes to UTA, and he has a sport bike. Well, this girl had tons, enough that there was another James that had a sport bike who went to UTA
Yeah.
that she thought I was.
Wow. And she was really liking who she thought she was talking to.
Well, supposedly, I'll let her tell this part.
Oh no.
This is true. This is honest to goodness truth. I was just like, this guy's really funny. I'm sure. I mean, it's okay. I wasn't super attracted to him, but I was like, maybe it'll work out. We won't know.
So
but
apparently he was even less good looking than I am. So I feel bad for that guy. But I don't know who. So she only found out because she lived in San Marcos. She was going to Texas State at the time. And it was a few weeks before we were able to make something happen where she could drive up.
Okay.
And we actually meet in real life. And what was odd is, this was probably great for me because I've never had a relationship that I was able to learn so much about somebody before physically meeting them.
Oh, okay.
It sounds counterintuitive, but it was so good because I knew her on a much deeper level than if we had met at a bar or whatever. And so anyway, when she showed up though, I mean, apparently she found out who I was before, she says, but I have wondered if she was like, is James here? Which would have been amazing had she said that, but thankfully that was not the case. But I remember she showed up at the house, and it was so awkward because I knew everything about her, and to be honest with you, if I'm being completely honest, I was like in love with her.
Yeah.
But I was like,
this is
Yeah.
new.
The initial
this
meeting.
is the first I'm hearing of this.
So it was good though for me because I had a kind of a bad track record with women at that point, so
Right.
it broke me of it.
I think the beauty about the internet back in those early days is if you had the best intentions, is to learn about somebody before you actually meet them in person and actually know a lot more about them. And so,
I fear about like online dating now. It wasn't a huge deal when we met, and meeting someone was really difficult. Like it took a lot of time and effort, and you had to like devote a large amount of you had to really put away your fears to to actually meet someone. And now it just seems, from what I understand, so easy. I've never
From
online
what I
dated.
understand, I'm just kidding.
Well, no, but I mean, we started dating in 2007.
Yeah.
So I missed all of that.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy, but I think that people's
People are too quick to swipe right or
Yes.
left or whatever the
just,
case
based,
is.
just based off an image in a little paragraph. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, can you imagine if you could just replace somebody that easy? When they first start giving you any grief, it would just be like, cool, leave. You know what I mean? Like I'll pick up my phone and someone will be here in 10 minutes. It's like faster than a pizza.
Today's culture.
Yeah, but I still operate in the assumption of oh, that was so much. It was so hard. I will fight to make this work. I never want to do that again. Versus I don't know that kids have that anymore. So I do worry about online now.
What was y'all's reaction seeing each other physically in person versus always seeing each other in photos?
Super awkward. I remember doing the side hug.
Oh, really?
I remember that. To this day, I remember how awkward that hug was. But I mean, we had a great time in person, and I don't think there was ever any pauses on either of our part.
Yeah, and not to get serious about it, but up until that point, I had been kind of a serial dater.
Okay.
I would meet a girl, and this is a horrible thing to say out loud, and I've never really said this in public.
I think it's okay. He did have a relationship podcast recently that I listened to.
Yeah.
So.
Mine? Oh,
yeah. I've listened to a bunch of them now, of yours. But so up until that point, I would just date girls, and then it was very odd, and I think I had heard ego, but I would just date them until I thought they really liked me,
right?
And then I would just disappear. And I think it was just a game of trying to build my ego back up by seeing if I could actually get these people to like me. Right. And once they did, I was like, okay, that game's over. Now to play it again. But what was unique in this situation is that we met where we really met each other the first time, and we had already kind of fallen for each other.
Okay.
And then to expedite it even further, her mother was very sick with cancer.
Okay.
And so
at the time of your meeting, she was ill.
Before, even before.
Okay.
And so it was she point blank told me, she said, "Look, I know this is odd because it's our third date or second date or whatever, but I really want you to know my mother, because she's going to pass away, and I want this may not work out. I totally understand that. But if it does work out, I want you to know that you had known her." And so it was our third date, and I'm out there with the whole family. You know what I mean? And it was good for me because it literally built some responsibility into the relationship and everything. And I did get to know her mother, not as much as I would have liked, obviously, because it was 6 months later that she passed away. But it was an interesting. Our relationship really went fast.
Yes.
But
it was a good speed. I mean, from what you your initial meeting and the growth of it was good. This, didn't matter the speed. It was really good. I'm assuming.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
Good. So let's talk. So you were in school, right? In college.
Yeah.
At what point you're married, right?
Yes.
Yeah. At what point did that become a part of the plan?
We actually bought a house together.
Oh, wow.
Because we were let's move in, and then
Okay.
we have always been very fiscally responsible. My parents were not fiscally responsible, so fiscality, if that's a word, was ingrained in me early age. So we were looking at apartments, and I remember going to not only apartments, but houses that were for rent. And I was like, why are we going to spend this much in rent when we can literally be paying down a mortgage?
Yeah.
And so we were
Okay.
well, let's just buy a house together. That seems like a good next step.
It was, and this was in 2000.
8.
No,
Well,
it was
we bought in
2010.
8.
No, we bought in 10.
Oh, you're right.
But it was right after the collapse of '08, which was
Yeah.
like the bad mortgage loans and everything. And I was thinking, like, they're never going to loan us money.
We're
First
on,
of all,
like,
we're not
entry
married.
Salaries.
We just got out of school. This is our first real, we both have our first real jobs. We don't make very much money. Like, and then they're like, not only can you get a loan, but they're like, yeah, cool. You can like, you can like spend like $350,000.
Yeah.
And
we
we're
were
like,
floored. I
which
think I
today
made,
doesn't buy necessarily a lot, but back in 2010, $350,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
Was that the face you made that you just made whenever they
no,
told you?
I was honestly, the face I made was like, oh no, because I didn't know how fiscally responsible she was at the point. And I was like, she's gonna think we can do that, like, because like, you know, the bank told you can do it,
Yeah.
like, which I think is so misleading. Like,
It
the
is,
bank should
yes.
like, they should tell you like, look, no, like, you can't do that. But they were like, yeah, 350
Hey,
grand.
just to throw some parameters, I was making like $28,000 a year.
And I think
Okay.
I
He
was making
more, maybe like
35.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and they want us to
And
put a
They threw that- they threw that number?
$50,000.
right after the '08 crash. I was like, they didn't learn anything from the crash.
Oh
So
my God.
yeah. So, but we ended up being smart. We bought like, you know, we bought a short sell, like super cheap, and then we got $8,000 back from the government for our first time home buyers or whatever. And so that really set us up into a great position, because that, you know, ultimately led to where we paid that house off, and that house, let's see, tripled or quadrupled in value.
Oh, wow.
While we had it. And so, which really opened up the door to move out here and do what we're doing now. So
Okay. So you sold that house. How did you end up in East Texas? Tell me about the story about getting to East Texas.
It is a long story, so I'm
Yes.
just gonna.
Yeah, okay.
We're ready.
Okay, so this one's it is a long story, but I think everybody who grows up in the city has that same dream, which is some point I want to buy some property, get some animals, you know, do the country living thing.
Okay.
Which is odd, because once I've lived out here now, I've realized that a lot of people who grew up in the country have the exact opposing dream.
Yes.
And I'm always like, duh. It's like, have you ever seen Billy Madison, the movie?
Yes.
Okay. You remember whenever they're like, I can't wait till I go to high school, Billy? And he's like, never. You don't ever say that or whatever. That's how I feel when people tell me that. I'm like, it's.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I had that dream
Okay.
forever. Like, it was like, I want to do that. But,
So most of your life, it was in a city.
oh, yeah. I grew up in, like, I don't know. Do you ever familiar with Oak Cliff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I-
So
I
I grew
moved
up
here
right
from-
under Oak Cliff. So, like, that was our. Like, we were in the city.
It's a rough
so
side.
yeah, we were in the city. So, and the actual city I grew up in, it was an odd place to grow up, because it was like suburbia that was on its way into, like, I don't know how to say this, like PC, but like, it was,
Just say it
everybody
that way.
was running from the city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everybody who had money and means were going further south.
Right.
And so we didn't have, like, I didn't grow up with a bunch of money. So, like, my parents got divorced, and I lived with my mom, and she was a school teacher. So, like, we were still, she still lives there, but we were stuck there. So it was just weird, because, like, the city was on the decline where we were at. Anyway, it was 12 square mile city. So, like, it was every bit of concrete. So, like, in my mind, I was like, I want to get some land. I want to move away or whatever.
Yeah.
But like most people, you have responsibilities, you have bills, everything. There's a million reasons not to do it.
Right.
And you can really talk. I'm very good at talking myself and anyone else out of any good idea. So in 2021, I go to the doctor.
Okay.
And I say,
This is already mid-COVID, 2021?
yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, Texas kind of handled COVID differently. So, like, I worked every single day. Like, COVID obviously was a thing, but, like, it only meant, like, it was a much lesser thing than a lot of places. But I go to the doctor, and I said, I think there's something wrong with my heart, and I want to run some tests. And so they're, okay, cool. So they run these tests, and I'm really bad about answering my telephone. So they ran all these tests on me, and they were trying to get a hold of me, and it's like the unknown number, which is never going to get
Don't answer
answered.
the unknown number.
Yes. Okay.
Finally, like, after a couple days, I'm like, I'm going to murder whoever this is. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm answering this thing like, hello, you know, and they're like, James. And I'm like, yeah. And they said, this is so-and-so from the doctor, and, you know, we've been trying to get a hold of you. And I'm like, well, you got me. You know, I was like, what is it? You know, I'm at work. And they were like, we got your scans back, and you have a massive blood clot on your lung.
Oh, wow.
And if it bursts, you're dead. Like, point blank, you need to go for additional imaging right now. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of my work. Like I was like, I can't leave. And my job's unique in that like I have clients that are with me, so I can't just run out of the room.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, can I do it tomorrow or whatever? They're like, you need to be in a car now. Like you should have been in a car days ago, but now. So I go from, my job is I tune race cars. Like that's what I do. So like my job is chaos. Like I'm sitting in 1,000 horsepower cars on the dyno, just explosions happening all the time. I go literally from that. Now I'm driving my regular car to the imaging. Like literally like 20 minutes ago I was like on a bomb, and now I'm driving as if like if anybody pulls out in front of me, this might be the end. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I go and I get these scans done. And then it comes out, they bring me back in. They said, look, it's not a blood clot. And I'm like, perfect. They said, it's IPF. And I don't know what that is. So I was like, okay. And they were like, so you need to go to see a specialist, blah, blah, blah. So cool. I leave. I call Sarah. I said, not a blood clot. We're good. It's some IPF thing. No big deal.
Right.
And that night we were having dinner, and my mom was there. And I'm sitting there, and Sarah and my mom are it's like ghost. Yeah. And I'm like, everything all right? And they're like, and I was like, no, come on, like, what is it? And then nothing. I'm like, is it about, the IPF thing? And they're like, I hadn't Googled it, nothing.
Okay.
So my mom chimes in immediately and says, you don't have that.
What?
And I was like, okay. I was like, well, that's what they said I have, And she said, nope, you don't have that. And I was like, should I Google this? And then my mom's like, nope, because you don't have it. And I'm like, oh, no. So I Google it, and it's idiomatic pulmonary fibrosis. And it means that your lungs are literally like dying for no cause. That's what makes it idiomatic. And I might be butchering that, like, because I'm not a doctor. But that's essentially what it is. But it's 3 to 5 years, and you're dead. And there's no cure. There's no treatment. There's nothing you can do about it. And so I get this diagnosis, and it was really odd because I had lived my life really crazy up to that point. And then out of nowhere, it's like, hey, 3 to 5 years, you're going to be gone.
Wow. And
that was right around that Snowmageddon, deal where the whole city froze over. So I couldn't get in to see a specialist. So it was weeks. For weeks, she would wake up in the middle of the night crying. And, it was like I was literally watching those around me mourn my death. And knowing that I would be dead in 3 to 5 years, but it was even worse kind of because I knew I would be spending 3 to 5 years watching everybody watch me die.
Right.
And the way it was described to me is like, it's like you have like a little person choking you for 3 to 5 years until you finally gasp out,
right.
And so
why was your mom, why was she saying you don't have it?
Because it's so bad.
Okay.
So she was thinking like, my mom is a saint, okay? Yes. But she's definitely like a positive thinker.
Yes.
Not always accurate, but always positive. And so I think she was just thinking, maybe I can make this go away. Okay. Like if I just say he doesn't have it, then maybe he'll stop. He won't look into it I think there is truth to that. Like if you get into this mindset that you're sick, you get sick. And so anyway, I live with that diagnosis, and I had always gone on Zillow and like looked for land, but it was always like I had such unrealistic expectations. So I would say like, I want 100 acres with a house, and I want, this and that, and blah, blah, and I want to spend $50,000 or what, you know what I mean? And I'll be like, just no results, like that, again? Like, all right, I'll check again tomorrow, or whatever. So then this night, because I thought I was dying, I was like, I got a little bit more liberal with my like price slider, and I'm like, all right, let's just see what's up here. And this one property pops up.
Right.
After like, I'm like, keep cruising up, and finally I get to a point where like something pops up, and it was this place out in Gilmer, or outside of Gilmer. And I had never, I had heard of Gilmer just because people we knew, this one couple was from there, but in my mind that was like in the middle of nowhere. Like there's nothing there. Like Gilmer is like nothing. And then my whole the whole thing I'd even thought of East Texas was so far off, because I thought it was like Dallas, 30 minutes Tyler, and then like 30 minutes Longview, and then 30 minutes Louisiana. Right. It's like just this weird area that was like east, and it was like basically you just drive for a while and then trees and then Louisiana. And So anyway, I told her about it. I was like, hey, there's this property. And truth be told, the property, like, you had to have the right vision.
Right.
Because the people who had owned it hadn't, like, lived there in a long time. It had grown up really tall and everything on itself. But it was, it was over 100 acres, and it had a house. And it had met the bare requirements. And I show it to her, and she's like, she's like, that's more than we can afford, and I'm like, yeah, well, let's just go look at it, and so we actually made an appointment. I do so little real estate that I actually made the appointment with the selling agent. I call the guy who's the agent who's representing the sellers. So we meet up with, he says, yeah, and he'll show it to us. And so we meet up with him, and there was another couple there looking at it.
Oh, wow.
We pull up. As we pull up, Sarah says, don't fall in love with it because we can't afford it. And I was like, okay.
The fiscally responsible one.
Yeah. So we get there, we pull up, there's a barn, we get out, and then the couple that was looking at it comes walking around the barn. And they say, the man that was looking at it, he's like, don't fall in love with it, it's sold. Right? And I'm like, because I'm thinking, I was kind of hoping maybe we could come up with this like crazy low offer and it would like work out. And then when he said that, it was like, so I was deflated when I got there and then further deflated. But then I looked around and I'm like, oh my God, like I love this. And this is exactly what I want to do, whatever.
I literally have a photo of him taking a video of the place
Really?
and his like smile is so big. And to be honest, that guy saying, don't fall in love with it, it's sold was like all the competition I needed.
Yeah, she may be fiscally responsible, but she's incredibly competitive. So like, honestly, that probably worked out super good.
Yeah.
And so we looked at it and I talked to the agent and I was like, is there any chance they would take under asking? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, but it's always worth, putting an offer in.
You didn't tell anything about the pigs.
Oh, yeah, we knew so little about country life. Okay, let me just tell you where we were at. We had a quarter acre. That's where that was our biggest piece of property, our only piece of property we ever owned.
But what animals did you have experience with up to this
None.
point?
Dogs.
That's
That's
Cats.
it.
Dogs and cats.
No, I never
I had a cat growing up.
Okay.
Skittles.
Okay, dogs and cats.
Maybe a little cat experience, but no real animal experience.
Okay.
And yeah, so we and this is 114 acres that we're going to buy. And so
Wow.
we leave there, and I was telling her, I was like, I really want to put an offer in. And
You didn't tell the pig story.
oh, sorry, some pigs. Yeah,
Pigs.
we're cruising around. The guy brought a side by side, so we're cruising around the side by side. We knew so little about animals that there were wild pigs, which are a nuisance and a horrible thing, whatever. But we're so inexperienced that we're like,
Oh, it
whoa!
comes with
It's like,
pigs.
it comes with pigs, and we're like, it comes with its own pigs already. Like, and I was like, I can't wait to be a pig farmer. And I thought for sure, I was like, man, this is so good. This is a sign that we need to buy this place because
It was like a whole, I don't know what
It was like 100
it was,
pigs.
It was a lot of
Yeah,
pigs.
because nobody had lived there for so long.
What did the guy say when you said that? Like,
I think he thought, like, he was smart. He was a salesman. He's like, yep, they're all yours. You buy the place, you get the pigs for sure.
Oh my gosh.
We won't even, I won't tell them about it, and we won't charge you any extra for it. And so we leave.
That's hilarious.
And Sarah, she says, okay, if you want to put an offer in, let's do it, but let's send a letter.
Yeah.
And this is actually like really pivotal to the story. So she tasked me to write this letter, right? And I write, and I'm like, this is so dorky. I was like, I don't want to write a letter. Like, I was like, what does that even mean? I was like, because my impression of like people who lived in the country was like hard people. You know what I mean? And like hard people don't care about some city boy writing a letter. Like, they're gonna judge everything I write. It's like, so I just like, hey, we like your property, whatever. And she's like, that's a horrible letter. Like, that's worse than no letter. Let me write something. So she writes up this nice, and this is before ChatGPT. So this is a real letter she wrote. And she writes this thing out, and it's just like explains who we are and how much we like the property and how much we would love to take care of it, and like and then she put a picture of us with our 3 dogs, and signed it from us, and we chose not to mention anything about like the IPF thing or whatever, and which is actually turned out to be a really good idea not to mention that, but because at this point I still think I have it.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't so then she says, so we send it, and then the guy calls me. And because mind you, we're working through the same agent. So
Right.
like I don't have a real estate agent. I have his agent.
Yeah.
And he calls me and talks to, or does he talk to just me or you?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So we're talking and he kind of feels me out. And then his last question was like, if I sell this to you, will you go to church with me?
Oh.
Or like just one time basically, but like, would you entertain that?
The agent or the owner?
The owner.
The owner. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
the agent
amazing.
connected us.
Okay.
You didn't say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. This all worked out kind of like probably not technically the way you're supposed to sell anything. Cause like we're way in communication with everybody and like he's our agent, he's their agent. Like
But
it was dirty.
Fiduciary responsibility technically is to the seller.
And he
not
did
to
make
the
that
buyer.
clear. Like
Yeah,
he's like,
he
my
did.
responsibility is to them. But I also knew because like I know people's like I know how people act. He's gonna get double the commission.
Right.
So like it actually is still in his best interest or whatever. Anyway, so I was like, absolutely, we'd go to church with you. And to be honest with you, at that point we hadn't been going to church.
Okay.
I grew up in a Methodist church. My mom like teaches at church. Like she was so dorky that like when she grew up, if she was out of town, she'd go to church and have somebody sign something
Okay.
and then bring it back to her church who didn't care. You know what I mean? To make sure they knew like I did go to church
Perfect attendance.
while I was out of town. Like, and they're like, perfect, we'll file this away in the trash. But she did. She would do that. So I
man.
grew up and I went through confirmation. It was a Methodist church. And I went through confirmation and did all the things. But when I got into high school, I don't know why, but I really like turned away from it.
Right.
Like I thought at the time I was like smarter than that. And that was kind of the whole, like the way I went with that was like, it doesn't stack up, you know, like and it's too much. Like every time I ask a question that's hard, they always want to say faith. And like, it's like, I thought I was smarter
Right.
than that. And, and when we bought the property, that's how I felt. Like, so when he asked me that, I was like, if you'll sell me this property, I'll go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like I'll literally do anything.
I'll do
Like,
whatever.
yeah, whatever. Like whatever you're down with. Like you tell me, I'm there. And so
Oh, man.
anyway, they ended up accepting our offer, and which was less than those other people's offer.
Uh-huh.
They offered over asking. Our
Oh,
offer was
really?
under asking significantly.
Yeah.
Do you think
And
the
it was
question
a-
for the church was a
I think there was a combination of events. Ours wasn't contingent because we had planned to keep our place in Fort Worth.
Uh-huh.
So our offer was a
And we had paid off our house in Fort Worth.
Okay.
Thanks to my fiscal
yes,
responsibility.
thanks to our fiscal. Yes.
I feel like that's going to come up a couple times.
So we had paid off that place in Fort Worth. So that opened up our credit to where we could buy the place out here.
Okay.
And our plan was we were going to stay in Fort Worth, work there, come out here on the weekends. And so our offer was like a little bit more attractive because of that, because theirs was contingent on a sale of their house. But at that point, the market was like
Yeah, it was
really
on fire.
good. That was 2021. Interest was still low. Everybody was buying.
Right.
And so it probably would have sold, but I don't know what exactly was their driver. But I do think the letter and the conversation, everything was a huge part of it.
Interesting.
And
Well, let me ask you this.
Sorry, go ahead with your question.
Let me ask you this. Do you have access to that letter?
Probably it's in my email, but I can tell you 100% what the letter, specifically about the letter. They had been praying that a couple with 3 children would buy their home.
Wow.
And I signed the letter with James and I and our 3 dogs.
Nate, yeah.
They
And
the owner told
they
you this.
knew,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah, we're
yes.
good- we're good friends
very
with
good
them
friends
now.
with them
The,
to this day. So they had been praying for that, and and in truth, like those dogs are our children. Like we have a human child now, but
We also have
more dogs.
3 other dogs now and a lot of other animals. But so
So you kept your house. You were planning to work here on the
they did
weekends.
they took our offer, and so we're now we're cooking, and we're dealing with the loan and all the things or whatever. I finally get into a specialist.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm like, this whole time I think I'm dying, and I have life insurance. Okay. So I'm like, my logic was like, I want to do this dumb thing. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a horrible idea, I'm sure, but I have enough life insurance to pay this place off when I
that's
die,
the case,
and she'll be able to sell it. You know what I mean? And it'll be an experience I got to have.
All right.
And so then I go and meet with this doctor, and he's like a younger guy, and they run all these tests on me. And then he sits down and he said, so what's going on? And I was like, well, I got the IPFs, and he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I got the IPF, and he's like, no, you don't. And I was like, what? And he said, you don't have IPF? He's like, that's a ridiculous diagnosis. And I was like, no, that's what they said. And he's like, no, I get it. That's what they said, but that's wrong. Like, he's like, that's not what you have. I've given that diagnosis. That's not what you have. He's like, your lungs have definitely been damaged. He's like, but you tune race cars for a living. Like, he's like, it's not idiomatic. You literally live in a dino cell with, methanol breathing monsters like that. Yeah, you need to like wear a respirator. You need to like take care of yourself a little bit, but like you're good. Like you got good lung function, everything.
You have nothing.
You're good. Like yeah. And so I leave there, and I remember thinking like, oh no. I was like, it's like, what did I do? Like I'm gonna live. Like I was like, I can't renege on any of this. Like you know what I mean? Like I have to go through this. Like because like that's how good I am at talking myself out of something. Had that diagnosis had that changed a week before the loan went through or something, I would have pulled out. I would have lost. Yeah, for sure. Because I'd have been like, that doesn't make any sense.
So
like
you're basically like making this purchase based on the idea that you're
I'm
going to
dying.
be around that
yeah,
long.
I was like, this is like free money. I was like, whatever, let's roll. Like, let's do it.
Oh man.
But so then we end up, because I'm a man of my word. We go to church, and I go into this with not like I was like, I've been to church. And our church, like that I grew up in, truth be told, it was like a Methodist church, First Methodist Duncanville, and they have like organs, and you sing hymns, and like it's boring. Yeah. Like I never left one time understanding what the message was. Like never one time. And I would go into it sometimes. I'm like, I'm gonna listen hard, and literally I'd walk out and I'm like, nothing. Like I literally have no idea what like they talked about.
Did you come out more confused than when you went in?
I was like I would be like sitting there and I'm like, all right, listen, like really listen, and then like nothing. Every time for my whole life.
Oh my god!
And so I go into this and I'm like, this is just gonna be more of the same, like whatever. But I want to entertain this, and I did make that agreement. And so I'm sitting there, and our pastor's name's Matt, and he delivers this like, it's very odd, like, and I know that like it sounds corny or whatever, but it's like if he had written, like if he knew me, like, and he wrote a sermon specifically for where I was in life at that moment. Right. Like it wouldn't have been as good as what he delivered. Like I felt like this is a joke. Like it was like odd. Like Sarah, did you talk to this dude? Like you know what I mean? Like this is weird. Whatever. And so he delivers this deal. And I remember at that moment I was like, what are the odds that my butt would be in this seat at the New Beginnings Baptist Church in Gilmer, Texas, listening to this dude like talk about this thing I need to hear? Like, what are the odds?
Yes.
If you had asked me a year before, I'd have put the odds at exactly 0. Like, that would have been the odds. But, but I got this diagnosis. I found this one piece of property. The owner happened to, like, just feel compelled to want me to go to church with him. The loan went through. Like, all these things happened to get me in that.
You wrote a letter.
We wrote a letter. We included our fake children. Like, all these things had to happen. And so... Anyway, that's when like my whole world like changed, and we did buy the property, and I way underestimated like what that meant, like mainly because I didn't think I was actually going to take care of it. It's like this is someone else's future problem, and not only did we buy 114 acres, but the real problem was we bought 114 acres that nobody had been maintaining.
Right.
Which is like if you're like really good at country life, you like that would probably still be tough when you don't know anything. Like we didn't have a tractor, we didn't have I had a push mower. Like that was like I showed up with a push mower and a 1500 truck. Like I was like, I'm ready for ranch.
A leaf blower with a battery.
Yeah, we had a battery powered leaf blower. Like we're out there like I'm gonna take this over. I got this.
What were you thinking, Sarah? Like going through this whole process.
This is him. This is this decision is James to a T for sure. So this is nothing new at all. There are a lot of times in my life that I'm.
You know who was more worried than Sarah?
Who was?
The guy who owned the property.
Oh yeah.
Like, because I called him. I had bought a tractor before we moved. We technically had closed. Well, we hadn't closed yet.
We were in process, but we went to church before we closed.
Okay.
So we start to establish a relationship with them.
So I buy a tractor. Right, and I don't know anything about tractors. Like, I now, granted, my bread and butter is cars, like so cars and race cars and that kind of thing. So mechanically, I'm pretty like I'm there.
Right.
But I don't know anything about tractors. And so I call the homeowner and I'm like, hey, I bought a tractor. Is there any chance I could store it out there at the property until, before we close?
Right.
It was only a few days, maybe a week.
And he's like, I heard like fear in his voice. He's like, what did you buy? And because I think he thought I was going to show up in one of those like miniature like tractors or whatever. Hey, I was like, I bought good because I bought like a full cab 100-horse tractor, like a big tractor. But I told him, and he's like, okay, like good, all right, good, so anyway, we move into the place and we lived there we did the weekends only. So my job, I would work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We would hop in the truck Thursday night. We'd drive out here. Mm-hmm. We'd be Friday, Saturday, Sunday here, which was basically me mowing, just for 3 days solid. And then we would hop back in the truck and head back to Dallas on Sunday night. And we did that for a year.
Okay.
And finally, to be completely honest, I would say the finances were probably what really pushed that over. But it was kind of a miserable existence anyway.
There was a lot of driving.
We really loved being at the property, but we were neglecting both places because you can't, we couldn't properly maintain our house in Fort Worth. It was a nice 2-story house, pool, yard, the whole deal. But we were like tourists. It was almost like an Airbnb. Like we'd show up with our bags and we had fully renovated it right before we bought the place in Gilmer. And so it was weird. It was like living in someone else's house. And then we would hop in the truck and drive back out here and then spend Friday, Saturday, Sunday out here.
How did you feel going to the property? So you feel like this is the Airbnb. What did the property feel like?
I don't know. How would you describe that? I mean, we loved it.
Was it just a responsibility?
Yeah, I guess it became like home for us. But it was like, it was an adventure. I mean, it was really an adventure. But we couldn't have any animals or anything because we were gone so much. So it was really just we just had these big pastures of grass we mowed and I loved it. I'm farming James. I'm out on the tractor and I'm I'm loving life. And
at the time I was doing PR for a regenerative agriculture beef brand.
Okay.
And so I obviously fully drank the juice and I fully believe in regenerative agriculture and all of its benefits. And so we really wanted cows, but we had to be here full time before we could actually get cows.
Into that. Okay.
So, yeah.
So let me ask you this. The pigs, when did you realize that they were not
Very
normal
early.
pigs?
No, it was pretty early because mainly because people had told me what a moron I was. But when we got a trail cam up, that's when I realized the extent of the problem.
We have a photo we'll show you. It's
we had we put up probably 3 or 4 trail cams at the property and we would get these pictures and it was hundreds. It was, I mean, it was an insane amount. And then one day it was 30 dogs were on the camera. It was it was the craziest thing. It was everything. I was like, oh no. One night, it was on the porch of our house. We had security camera up, and it was 5 snakes cruising across. And I'm and I was in Fort Worth at the time, and it was late at night, and I was just checking on the place, and I'm oh, I'll be honest.
Sarah,
when you live in the city, 5 snakes on your porch is not a common occurrence. And I was this might have been a mistake. This is probably not.
Did
good.
she see it? Did she see the snakes?
I don't know. No, it wouldn't have been good. That. I know when not to show her.
So we were just splitting our time too much, and neither place was profiting.
And the money was so bad, because you have electric bills, trash bills,
even with the house in Fort Worth paid off, you just have double utilities for everything.
Well, and the taxes in Fort Worth were really high, so we had taxes. We had to pay a guy to take care of the pool because we weren't there. We were never using that pool.
It really was like an Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Except nobody was in it, and it was making no money. It was the world's worst Airbnb. But so that's when we decided. I had a buddy client of mine who was in real estate, and that's when we decided we were let's list it. But she loved that house. So
that was actually a condition of us moving out here full time. We don't have to sell the house in Fort Worth.
Okay.
So, and this is why I do believe that there's our master plan behind all this because she comes to my buddy and says, he tells us a number. This is where I think you should price it. Yeah. And she said she added $100,000 to it. Okay, which
just like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think he said just so you have raw numbers because otherwise it's weird. But I think he wanted to list it $425.
Okay.
Or something. And then she's if it doesn't sell for over 500, we're not selling it.
Okay.
Now keep in mind we paid $128,000 for the house.
Yeah.
Okay. So Like, I was at 425. I was like, we're going to be rich, you know? I was like, and she's like, and then she said that, and I'm like, well, you should just say we can't sell it. You know what I mean?
You're just sabotaging the plan.
Yeah, you're sabotaging. And that's what the real estate agent said. He was like, I mean, I'll list it there, but that's ridiculous. And honestly, it kind of looks bad. Like, when you do that, you list it really high, and you got to back it down.
No problem.
Yeah.
And she's like, yep, that's the point. And first day, like, it listed on a Friday, Monday morning, we had 2 over asking offers.
No way.
And we're like, what?
Then you said you're rich.
Yeah, then I was like, we really are rich. But then, you know, that's a whole long story I won't bore everybody with. But anyway, we sold the house, and then we packed up the van and cruised out to East Texas, you know, and that's where we've been ever since. Now, I still have to work in Dallas. So
I was about to ask.
Yeah, unfortunately, like, and there might be a market out here, but I just have such a strong market in Dallas, so it's very difficult to, like, you know, to try to
understandable.
Yeah, to try to build it back up. But, you know, like, I got back at 1 a.m. last night.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's when I go into Dallas, I have to, you know, I try to make it work. Yeah, try to make it count. So I'm there for a long stretch. So
okay. So you said you have your church. I was reading. Tell me about how we came to meet. Me, you, and I. How did we come into contact?
That's a little bit embarrassing. You know, we had actually. I think we had talked about doing this before we did it, right? Or before I did.
Making the post?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think we kind of did it like jokingly, like I should just make a post. Like, yeah.
Did you post it in multiple groups, or was it?
No, it was
just
there.
that one. Yeah.
What made you decide Longview, like, of all the other, like, Gilmer
and this isn't like, I'm not like trying to blow up your ego, but like that group is unique. Like it is uniquely, like, if I had like none of the other groups like would have worked.
Yeah.
Gilmer would have gone nowhere. Like, I promise you. Like, it would have been 0 comments. Okay. So like that wasn't on my radar. Ore City, I don't know. Like, that one would have been different, but nothing against Ore City people. We love Ore City people.
You were saying like the engagement in Ore City is really amazing.
It's very high, but you know, we were looking for people that, like, you know, that would, like, in similar place that we are. And I don't think Taco Ore City we would have found that. Like, just to be honest with you, I'm not being like, that's not, don't read into that. It's just like, we have a unique situation, you know, and so I thought, it never even crossed my mind to post it anywhere but All Things Longview. And I did not think it was.
Go ahead.
I did not think it was gonna like take off. I didn't think that anybody cared. I would care. If anything, I thought people would just make fun of us. Like, but this particular day, she said,
"You should probably say what you posted."
Well, she didn't want me to post that. That wasn't what she asked me to post. She said,
"Yeah, that's actually not what I asked you to post."
she said, make a post and see.
I had our daughter for the afternoon, and
he
was going to be doing some work, and I said, "Will you make a post in All Things Longview?" And asking specifically for things that I can look for things to do. So like newsletters or, you know, multiple Facebook pages like, hey, these are the events that are happening in Longview right now.
Kind of events, things that are going
exactly. And so that's what I asked him to post. So now you know why he bought the property. Like, this was totally his amount.
I heard, see if you can find us some friends. You know, but that kind of gets on to a different point, which is like, and this is like odd to say, but like, when you're from the city, you know, and you move out to the country, like I had made it 30 miles west my whole life. Like, from where I was born to where I was at was 30 miles.
Right.
I still had friends that were from the 4th grade, you know, and we had met lots of people along the way. We had like a strong friend groups and like everything. I mean, it was, you know, as you get older, your friend groups get smaller, but they're, you know, they're pretty tight, you know, and you know, you still have all these friends and stuff. And then you move out to the middle of nowhere, especially when you live on 114 acres and it's like a secluded 114. Like, our house, you can't see our house. Like, it's way back in the back of it. And, you know, it's great because like you go into it like, I hate people, you know what I mean? Like, which is why we like moved to the country, to be honest. Like, I was like, after COVID, I was like, I hate people. I was like, I just want to be away from people. But that's like the hardest part, to be honest, is that like you are secluded.
Right.
And like, especially for Sarah, I go to Dallas and like my days in Dallas, because of what I do, I'm like inundated with people. Like, so it's like,
you get your fill.
Well, yeah, because I have my clients there, the technicians, everybody. And like, when I'm there, because I'm there such a limited amount of time, everything's kind of like James centric. So like, I got people in my ear the whole day, and by the time I leave, I'm like, I hate people again. You know what I mean? But
I work remotely.
Okay.
So I do PR for a living, and I
Okay.
work with an agency that's actually based in Denver.
Okay.
So everything I do, I don't talk to people. I mean, I do
You don't see
Zoom,
them.
and
Yeah.
yes, I don't see people one-on-one. And so aside from James and our daughter and our nanny at this point, like that's all I really see on a daily basis.
and that's like it's really hard on you, and especially because if you don't really have any friends, especially because we have this property, and there's often times where I'm like, man, what would be really nice if I had a buddy, like, you know what I mean, like if I had a buddy,
Just
because
even out here on my
I'm like
property,
I'm like hanging off welding something upside down. I'm like trying to like hold it and weld it at the same time, and it's just and it dawns on you, you're like, I don't have anybody, like. And for the long, up until that point, I just like my ego was like, I'm not gonna make a post asking like to meet friends. Like I'm sorry, that's like really dorky. And I think at like a certain point, I was like, you know what, like,
yeah.
I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it's dorky, I guess, like whatever. Like I'm gonna do it. And like,
Did you tell her what you were gonna post before, or did you just do it and then
No,
she
he
found out later?
posted
I posted it. I sent that thing. I was like, let's like
Send it.
send it. Like, and then I was like, hey, I made a post. I remember she walked in the house, and I was like, I made a post. You want to see it? And she's like, she read it, and she's like, well, that's interesting. And I was like, yeah. I was like, we'll see how that goes. And then I think I had to poop. So I was like, all right, well, so I went to the bathroom, and I came back, and it was like, I think it was
on fire.
It was like 78 comments, but
But she was yakking with you when you came out. Yeah.
well, she told me, she said, no one's like engaging with that. Well, she'd already seen that like a bunch of people had engaged with it, but she was like, only people laughing at it. And I was like, and I hadn't seen it, so I was like, oh well, I was like honestly thinking like, I'm gonna delete it. I was like, because that, I it's like, that's so dorky. Why do I do that? Like, and then I saw it, and I was like, man, like that really, like I don't know. I don't know if like people did feel bad for me or if it resonated with people, because I think a lot of people want friendship, and like it's weird when you're a kid, you have a million friends, and it's so easy because you're in school and you meet people, and you have this huge group of people that you get to like interact with. But when you're an adult doing like adult
And you
things,
transplant yourself,
especially if you transplant yourself. And you're not a good transplant. I've never transplanted. So, like, there are some kids that moved 15 times when they grew up. They're just super good at, like, meeting people and whatever. But if you never had to do it, it's very odd. Like, and you'll meet people and like them. But then it's like, like, what are you going to be like? Hey, man, can I get your number? Like, hey, like, you want to hang out later or something? Like like I have met people in Longview or something, and I'm like, that seems like a cool dude. But then I'm like, but like, like, not to be weird, but I'm not gay, so I'm not gonna like ask him like to hang out later or whatever. Like, but the one time I did do that, like, and we actually have really good friends in Dallas, and it was kind of that same deal. That's like how we met some people in the airport in Dallas, and. We were both going to Mexico, and we had this crazy like delays and reschedules of flights or whatever. But
there was pollen on the jet bridge.
Yeah, there was pollen on the jet bridge. But we ended up going through customs with him and everything, and it was clear that we were about to split paths.
Yeah.
And finally, I was like, "Hey, like, can I get y'all's number, like, or whatever?" And and I thought he was gonna be like, "No," you know what I mean? Like what? Like. But then he gave me his number, and I thought, like, am I gonna call him? Like, this is gonna be so weird. Like, hey, man,
we were sitting in we went to an all-inclusive resort in Mexico, and we were there, and he was just like, hey, so like, how long do I wait?
Yeah, I was like, how long do you wait before you call the dude? And she's like, I don't know. That's really weird. You're asking me. And but I thought for sure. But come to find out, because we became real good friends with him, he was like, he went back to their resort and was like, do you think he'll call? Like. But I think like as an adult, like you do want this like friendship, you do want like this like companionship, but like it's just so awkward to like initiate it, and unless you have a real reason to like get to know someone, you have many interactions that could probably be with people that you like want to be friends with, but you don't like take that initiative because it's not like socially normal, and I think no one wants to get rejected, so like I have felt pretty good about my odds with him, like when I asked for his phone number. but that's probably not a good. Like, it's gonna be the only thing from this that's gonna be clipped in. Like,
Really good odds.
so tell us more about when you asked that dude for his phone number. But that's essentially what I did on there. Finally, I was just like, you know what? Let's see. And while it hasn't panned out yet, like there have been a bunch of people who seem like normal. We'll find out, but that have messaged me on the side. The thing I fear and is like how you actually like convert on that,
Right.
like because people would message and like, hey, like I read your post and like I applaud that like you're willing to make that post or whatever, and like we'd love to hang out. And then I'd write back and I'm like, cool, like we could have you over, or we could go grab lunch or do something, or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we should definitely do that. And then it's
That's
like,
it.
yeah, and
Well, I think it just goes back to you have to make the initiative. Like just like you had the initiative to make the post, you have to have the initiative to actually like, let's meet here at this time. Does that work for you?
Yeah,
I feel like
follow through is not
follow
my
through.
like, not
not
my
a
strong
strength.
suit, but I'm going to do it. And I've tried to respond to every single
some
person
point.
because I think it is I'm very much like appreciate that people were willing to like comment on it and not
Right.
make fun of me. So if you look on that post, every single person who said something, I tried to respond personally to them.
Yeah.
Every message I got, I responded to because
It's crazy how like you're initially like responding, but at some point it starts like, whoa, this is a lot. There's a lot of people.
yeah, it was definitely a lot that day, and then I had some things I actually had to do, so it was like I like when I got back to it, I'm like, okay, here we go, and we're gonna start responding or whatever. But once we moved out to the property, like to go back to that mindset, which is kind of where we like why this took that long to make that post was we ended up moving to the property full time, and then we were like, we need to get all the animals. Like, because we didn't know enough to know that's not smart. So we were like, we're going to get cows, we're going to get cattle, we're going to get pigs, we're going to get chickens, and we're not just going to get a few.
And bees.
We need
Don't
100
forget them.
chickens.
And bees?
We need
Yeah.
we need 5 beehives. We need 100 chickens. We need.
What's
He's
your
not,
experience?
Wait.
What's your
He's not
experience on
throwing
beehives?
numbers out. Like
What?
those were legit numbers. We
Yeah.
had 5 beehives. We had 100 chickens.
We had 37 head of cattle.
which was come to find out like the max that you can actually like rotationally
Which come to
graze.
find out is a horrible decision. Like horrible. Like they're so bad and so irresponsible.
It's just you two right now on the property.
Yes.
just us
Just us.
two.
Just
With
us.
zero knowledge. Like we were working with nothing. We
Yeah.
thought wild pigs were some perk of the property. And so, we had these, we were having to do all of it and learn all of it at the exact same time. When we first got the first cattle, right? I hate that you can't say cows because cows are female or whatever. But anyway, I say cows, whatever. When we got the first cows, we got them home and then we were like, we should wash them. Right?
Wait.
No, we really did this. This is not a
In
joke.
fairness, these are like yard art cows. So these were Highlands.
In fairness,
and
these are
British
wild
Lights.
animals, okay? So we tie them to a fence and
It's just you two. You don't
just
have anybody who knows
nobody.
about cows.
Listen,
No.
they don't even make you they don't even ask you questions when you buy cattle. Like they should ask you questions. There should be like a question, like, can you should you wash these when you get them home? And if you say yes, they don't sell them to you because we got them home and we tied them. These are not trained.
One
like
of them is.
one of them was halter trained. We assumed all of them are okay with having halters. We tie them to a post and we're washing them like a car. And when I knew that this was not smart, I was like, and this cow kicked the bottle of shampoo out of my hand so fast I didn't know what happened. It was just gone. And I didn't even know cows could kick at this point, right? So I was like, oh no. I was like, this is a dangerous animal. I was like, this is horrible. Like, and I told her, I was like, I'm not washing any more of these. Like, I'm sorry, but this is bad. Like, this is we're gonna get killed out here.
I remember texting my brother and saying like how therapeutic I felt it was, like the whole process of washing the cow. And I was like, I think we're gonna do this every weekend. He was like, no, you don't.
Yeah, we're gonna wash cows every weekend. Like that's gonna be our jam. And oh man, yeah, we had no idea what we were doing. Like looking back, it's weird because like it's hard to even go back to that mindset because we have, I mean, baptized by fire, we have learned so much. Like you know what I mean, and like So it's like I remember because we had Highlands. That was like the yard art cows we got. We got a small herd of those, and then we got a bunch of Red Angus and Brangus that we were going to do a grass-fed beef operation.
Okay.
And because of her experience with this regenerative agriculture. And I had listened to like all the Joel Salatin books and all these like books about regenerative agriculture, and I legitimately was at the peak of Mount Stupid, like in terms of my learning, because I was like, I'm gonna show everybody how to do this. Like I was like, why are they doing it the way they're doing it? Like this is the way to do it. And what I didn't realize is like, it's like everything else. You like when you start a hobby, you immediately think like you're such a genius. Like, because you learn a bunch of like random things and you're like, I know everything there is to know. And now I look back and I feel like if I knew this much then, I know this much now. You know what I mean? But I actually know a lot more now. But like I would never tell any cattle rancher how to do anything. Like if they're doing it and they're making money, then they're killing it. Because I couldn't even fathom a world in which I made money. It was horrible. So we sold all the beef cattle, like, because we were clearly not going to do that. Like we kept them for 2 years.
Okay.
We had we had that big herd for 2 years,
Well,
and
we started with like 28, and it grew to like.
Yeah, we were like calving. But are you familiar with rotational grazing?
I have absolutely no idea about cattle.
So
do you know anything about cattle, Rich?
You don't wash them.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't just we can never just do something a little bit. So we were not only did we get the cattle, but we were also doing this rotational grazing, which means you basically use electric, like single strand electric hot wire, and you move them every single day.
Wow.
So you just give them a very little bit of a ground, and it's called mob grazing. You put high stock density on one single piece of property of ground, and then immediately the next day move them and move them and move them, and you just walk them around your property. But it's an enormous amount of effort. Right. And
I was about to say that sounds like it takes a lot of your time.
For sure.
Yeah, it's so dumb. And then I realized
it's not dumb.
It's not dumb. It's not dumb. It's just dumb. It's dumb to do that number of cattle.
Okay. You need a high stock operation in order to make any money and also make a dent in any property.
You need friends. You need friends. Like you can't do this by yourself. And honestly, looking back on it, you really need 1,000 head of cattle.
Okay.
Like that's the underlying thing that I guess I've learned now is the economies of scale for farming and ranching. Mm-hmm. It's great if you want to be a hobby farmer, which is what we're now doing. Yeah. We've now realized after it took that this is if you want it to be fun, cool. Yeah. Keep it small and and manageable and do it to be fun, but don't think you're gonna make any money because the guys who make money, if there is any money to be made, they're doing thousands and thousands ahead, and they have ranch hands and have you ever seen Yellowstone?
I haven't, but I hear a lot about it. But
well, yeah. I hate to say that we were anybody who watches Yellowstone from the city is I'm gonna buy property or whatever. We were a little Yellowstoney when we first started, I guess. But
yeah, there was a meme going around that was the first season of Yellowstone, the second season of Yellowstone, third season.
Yeah,
of
first season you get your first Carhartt thing, and then the second season, but whatever. It is kind of true. So anyway, we went head first in. And then we've slowly scaled it back.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of learning as you went.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna go really left field here, which I was very much team no kids. Right? Okay. I used to make posts and be like, "Have you ever heard the term DINKs?"
No.
Dual income, no kids. No. It's you're so proud. We're killing it. No kids. We got some money.
What age is this? What age? Around what age?
Not long ago. 5 years ago. And I was so much so I got a vasectomy. I was
wow.
Yeah, we're not having kids. And she, I don't know would you say you weren't as anti-kids?
I wasn't really passionate one way or the other, and so when he was I don't want kids, I was okay, fine. That's,
Who's the extrovert and who's the introvert, or where do those roles play?
He is 1,000% the extrovert. I think that's pretty obvious.
He just talks too much.
He just talks too much. I would say I'm definitely introverted, more introverted than he is.
Okay.
So we went through life like, we're not gonna have kids,
Right?
For sure, never gonna have kids. And like we were really good friends with a couple, and they were like team no kids. So we would like make a point about how we were like, how our lives are so great because we didn't have kids. And then we moved out here, and I was like, man, would be really like this is. You can say what you want about Longview, you can say what you want about East Texas, but I promise you, it's 1,000 times better than Dallas. Like it's ridiculously better. Anybody who lives here
Hasn't lived in Dallas.
Like, or if they did live in Dallas, they're forgetting
Not long
a lot.
enough.
Yeah, or they lived in a different era. So like you lose, like, I really think a lot of like the reason I want to have kids was like, I was like, this is not a good world to grow up in, and like. So anyway, we moved out here, and I was like, actually, like, you could actually have like a childhood that kind of resembled the childhood. I mean, when I grew up, we were riding bicycles.
Yeah.
We were like, our parents didn't necessarily know where we were at. Like, it was like, I hate to use like that. Like, you had to be back home by when the, street lights came on, but that was like legit. Like we would ride, we would wear the tires off our bikes, like over and over. Like we were putting miles on those things. And, and in Dallas, it's not like that anymore.
Right.
You don't see a kid on a bike unless they stole it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many times I'd go to friends' houses and I'd be in the garage and see their kids' bikes and they still got the knobbies on them.
Yeah.
Like the brand new tires. And I'm like, has the kid ever ridden the bike? He's like, on Christmas.
It's
like,
crazy. It's crazy
4
how
years
like
ago.
I mean, even here you see so many like things like that. The bikes, they'll get them a bike, a child bike for Christmas, and they'll ride it that day.
Yeah.
Probably never ride it again.
I know, but that's like
wild.
so sad because like it was like that was the first freedom. That was our first time to be like, there's a whole world and we have like, there's no boundaries. You know what I mean? We can just go where we want. And like when I say that the town I grew up in was 12 square miles, we'd been to every one of them, and then, when you got your car, when you're 16, you're like, now there's really no boundaries, except like gas. Like I got to be able to afford to get back home. But other than that, but anyway, we moved out here and we started doing the animals and started like, living like a more, I'd say like homesteady kind of lifestyle. And then one night, I don't know if you're familiar with La Finca in Gilmer, but it's like
That sounds familiar.
It's the talk of the town in
It's
Gilmer.
the jam. Yeah, it's like the Mexican restaurant in Gilmer.
Oh, yes. I have heard it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're sitting there. We're like probably a margarita or two deep in conversation. And I don't know who brought it up. But it was like, do you want to, what do you think about having kids, And it was like, I think it might be worth doing. Well, keep in mind I have a vasectomy.
Yeah.
So it was like, I guess I could like look into like getting it reversed or whatever. And, anyway, that is a really bizarre story. I'll say for another time, but I ended up getting it reversed and it was successful. And, I look back on all of it and I'm like, if you had asked James 5 years ago, like, would you believe in God? Would you live in East Texas? Would you have a baby? Like, it is, if this isn't like God's plan for me, I way misread the cue cards. You know what I mean? Because like it's almost like it's odd. Like in life, sometimes you think you have control of a lot of things, but then I look back and I almost feel like I was controlling none of that. Like it was, these things were happening and I was just along for the ride. Like it was like almost like I was like compelled, does that make sense at all? Like
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, in reference to like getting you here, you're saying like the divine story and stuff. And when I wrote you, I really, I didn't expect you to respond. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't really know these people, but I really was compelled to know your story more, like how you ended up here. The fact that you took the courage to ask, the group, for friends and stuff. Like, man, I really want to know their story. I think something is telling me.
Still can't hear that. No.
that something is telling me to ask them to come.
What a loser.
Hear the story.
I gotta know that guy's story.
And then,
How did you get to be just that big a loser?
and so whenever I sent you the message, I think it was some time before you responded. I was like, he's not interested, but when you responded, I was like, I feel like this is gonna be good for him, and there's a reason that they should be here. Like,
Yeah.
I put a couple other people to this to the next date so that I could have you because I really wanted to know.
Well, she had me thinking this was a setup.
Oh, really? Are you serious?
Yeah, no, she.
Well, I hadn't reviewed your podcast yet.
Yeah.
But she's like,
because I kept asking for the link.
She said, "Why would he want to have you on the podcast?" And then she was I think she was genuinely concerned you were going to troll us, like you were bringing us here, and then you're going to be like, "Okay, so you're the people that were on All Things Longview asking for friends, like, or like."
So what's it like?
Yeah, maybe like a team of people here all like roasting us or something like. She had me concerned. I was like, maybe it is a roast. I was like, I don't know if it's possible, but so I'm glad to see it wasn't a roast. Yeah, it wasn't a roast.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. So I hope that it does pan out. Like, and one thing that I was really concerned with, we have met people since we've been here, and some really great people. And like I tried to word that, make sure I like worded it correctly. That like it's not that we haven't met anybody. Like we have friends.
Right.
I don't know if I'm not sure who I'm trying to convince here, but we do. I promise. But it's just like finding people who are in the same like walk of life as you're in is really difficult sometimes. And I know that your friends don't necessarily have to be in the exact same spot you are, but when you got a 1-year-old baby, if they're not somewhere close, it's gonna really make it hard, or if not impossible. Like, and like I know a lot of people that we were really good friends with, and they had kids, and you never saw them again.
Right.
And it's not that they didn't like you; it's just that their lives no longer jived with your life, And so, our ideal situation was somebody with like a fairly young child, like that would want to go do the things that we're gonna be interested to go do, and like experiences like that.
You listed some of those things, right? Remind me what those things were that you
well,
like to do specific.
But those really aren't things that we would go do with kids, like working out or whatever. Like we both like really value working out, and like I mean to the point where like we've built a home gym, we have a cold plunge, we have a sauna, like all like these are all like even before like really important things, we're like building
those things,
those type of things, and I mean they're like so they are like a high importance to us, but like that's not necessarily like important that somebody else have those hobbies like. All right, but like that, and then obviously cars for me, like that's like, and that's really just because like if I'm sitting there with another guy, like it's nice, to like cars and guns and things like. If you don't have any of those hobbies with me, obviously we got some things to talk about. But the if you don't have any of the same hobbies, it'd be really difficult because like I've been around guys like that, that like are into sports, for example. I got nothing. You know what I mean? Because I don't even understand the rules of like most of those games, And then they were like, what do you think about the Jets this year? And I'm like, oh, nothing. I haven't thought about them at all. Like not even one time. Like that's what I think about the Jets. Like are they they're basketball, right? Like like I'm pretty sure. No, okay. So. I don't know. It's so I think it is important that they kind of have some of the same hobbies.
And I guess it's cool to like even as you contact some people or they contact you that you kind of get a feel of who's out there and who you would like to bring into your life and kind of hang out with.
Yeah, we were thinking about honestly because we have like our properties laid out nicely where we have like our home and then we have this barn, this kind of a barn dominium. It's like a nice, and so we're almost like maybe it'd be smarter to just have like kind of a party, not a party, like a
rager,
a banger, but like a party, like where people could come over and be a little less awkward
potluck, if you will.
Come over, man. We're having a party, dude. And bring your kids. But like have people over because I think it'd be like less. Like if people don't like us, because like genuinely, like people either like me or want to punch me. I feel like, so like if you want to punch me, that's great. Maybe we don't need to be friends, and like, and I don't want any pressure on you, if you leave, like I hate that guy, then cool, like at least if it wasn't like a one-on-one deal, because then I'm cool with that too. Like we'll. At this point, beggars can't be choosers. We need friends. But maybe having people out would be like probably maybe a smarter way to do it because then be like if you hate me, you can just leave. Oh, look at the time.
Tell me about the cars. How did you get into cars?
So when I was a kid, I started programming computers when I was real young.
Okay.
And so I started like with like most people, like with BASIC and C and all the web languages and so by the time I was like 10 or 12 years old, like I was like hardcore into it. And then I went through like a hacking phase for a while. And I mean, it was like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, like truth be told, like, and this is gonna like, I grew up in a rough kind of area, you know, and so like when like, you know, I was exposed to like a lot of things, you know. I think most kids are exposed to bad things, but like I was kind of a bad kid, like, and I had a really good friend who was also really good with computers, and so, you know, we weren't like the typical computer nerds. We were like kind of I don't know how to say it. Like we were mischievous, mischievous. Is that right?
Yeah, mischievous. Yeah.
Okay. With our computer skills. Anyway, so but then when we got cars, it's like, man, who cares about computers? We got cars. You know what I mean? And so, but then I realized, like, these cars have computers in them. You know, I was like, so I was like, we got to figure out how to mess with that now. And so
man.
Then
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and you know, I had some success with this little software company that I developed, and so my parents allowed me to like basically buy whatever car I wanted for my first car, and like, so of course I was like, I want a Fox body with a supercharger and like all. So I ended up buying like a pretty aggressive first car for like a 16-year-old kid. It kind of doesn't make sense looking back on it, but it needed like to, you know, had to be worked on, and like, you know, and it was like a legit like kind of a race car, right. And so I was just always tinkering, and I like understood the computer side of it as well as the mechanical side of it, and but it never dawned on me to like make that my career. So when I went to college, I came out and I did like web-based stuff for UT Southwestern Medical Center. Okay. And I did 5 years of doing that. I was miserable. I hated every day of that deal.
It was office work.
It was in a basement.
In a basement?
Yeah,
wow.
with no windows.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And it was 8 to 5. And it was like let me don't rephrase that. Like a lot of government jobs, it wasn't 8 to 5's worth of work.
Yes.
It was like 8 to 8:15's worth of work, and then the rest of the day was like figure out how to like look like you're doing a job.
Yeah.
And it was really miserable. Like, and but I was still like on the side. I was like building little race cars and whatever. And like this is a really good story for her because it just shows how good of a wife she is. Because one day
y'all were already married at this point.
Yeah. Because
No, we weren't married.
We weren't married when we first started. Because we actually did everything in reverse. We met, we bought the house in 10, and then we didn't get married until 12.
Okay.
But it was before we got married. Right. But I went to her and I was like, you know, I'm really miserable. Like, I'm really miserable. But I was tuning these cars on the side.
Right.
So people who had modified their cars and stuff, they would come to me and they're like, hey, I know you do your car. Is there any way you do like my car?
You were kind of the go-to guy in that area.
Well, there were people who did it professionally. So like there were people to go to, but like, you know, I was kind of the new guy on the block. Right. And but I wasn't even like really charging people. I was just like, it was like fun to me. It was like a hobby.
That's what I was gonna ask. Did you like doing that?
I loved it. Yeah, it was, and it was like cool to be wanted to, you know, to like someone to want you to do the thing.
Right.
And tuning cars is like, it's kind of a unique thing to do in that like people really glamorize that particular profession. So I was doing it on the weekends and after hours and stuff like that. And then my friends would be like, hey, my buddy has a car. He wants, and so I started like charging people here and there. Yeah. And finally, I told her how miserable I was, and she's like, look. So she takes an envelope. She's like...
The fiscal responsibility
one. Yes, she takes an envelope, and like, let's say it was in, for example, January. So she said, January, next one, February, whatever, 6 months worth. And she said, and then she wrote a number. This is like how much money your part of the bills are. So she wrote that out.
Okay.
And then she's like, when you fill up these envelopes with money, when you fill that sixth one up, whenever that is, when you have 6 months worth of like bills, like
ahead of time,
yeah, she's like, then quit. And I was like, okay, perfect. So then I'm like hustling, you know, and I'm like drumming up business and I fill them up. And
would you say in your best verbiage, would you say that was quick? Was it a little slower than you thought?
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
You were driven to do it.
Yeah, I was driven. And so when I filled that sixth envelope up, I was like, you know, I was like so proud of myself. I'm like, I got them filled up, you know. And she's like, cool, quit. And I was like, no. I was like, you know, I was like that. Because again, like, I'm not like, I talk a big game, but like, I'm like, I got full benefits. I work for the state. I got, you know, it's a good job.
But she had given you what you wanted. Like
yeah, but that's where the misunderstanding was. She literally stopped me. She said, no, you don't understand what I said. I said, when you fill up the sixth envelope, quit. I didn't say when you fill up the sixth envelope, you can quit. You know, she's like, you're miserable. So when you fill the sixth one up, quit. and now you filled it up, so you need to go quit. And I was like, whoa, and so I went and I quit, and they kind of begged me to stay, and I was like halfway in, halfway out, or whatever. And then I was like, she's like, you gotta jump, and so then I quit, and that was in what, 12? I think that was in 12. And so I quit. Yeah. And
how did you come up with that particular, like?
To be honest, I have no idea.
No, really? I remember how she did it, because she said, "You're a smart dude," and or something along those lines. And then she said,
"I was like, you'll figure it out. Like if it doesn't work, if tuning doesn't work, you'll figure something else out."
She said, "Yeah, but I mean, something out."
How did you come up with like the
Honestly, I don't know.
Envelopes? That's pretty impressive.
I have no idea
I've
either.
Never heard
but
that.
she said, "I bet no matter what, you'll figure something out in 6 months. Like you're not going to sit on your butt for 6 months. Yeah. Like I know you. Like you're gonna find something out." And but like we didn't have the money at the time, like that we could like
just do it.
Yeah, because we were really like paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we needed that. Like we needed the envelope, like for that next month. And then everything hit perfect because. Like I got a deal with like a shop and they were on the rise, and then like another shop, and I was like, so my whole career has always been the same, which is like I contract with these so I'm always my own entity, but they build the cars, they call me in, I make them run, you know what I mean? And I make them run well. And then and I'm only there when I'm needed. So like, I'm a green line item on everybody's budget. So like if I show up, you're making money, because like I'm doing the thing. And but it was, I mean, I came into that market. Like if you came into that market now, it's horrible. Right. Because cars are on the decline. So like people modifying cars on the decline. Like the whole scene and the number of people who do what I do. And when I started was only like in Dallas was like maybe 4 or 5 people at a high level. Right. And now,
you had made it to that level, didn't you?
Yeah. But I'm saying like at that point, it was like 4 or 5 people who I would say were like elite. You know what I mean? Right. Who were making their career out of it. And now it's like a dime a dozen. And if you hadn't already built up your name, it would be very difficult. Like I have a job where every single day, almost without fail, somebody says, "I would love to have your job." And I have to tell them, like, a lot of times I'm like, "Look, do it or, if you want to do it, I can tell you how to do it." I was like, I just wouldn't get into it now. Like, it's not, I'm looking for like a parachute to go somewhere else, right. To be completely honest with you. I mean, I still want to do this thing, but like, I have to be aware of the fact that like, I don't think that modifying cars is necessarily going to be something that exists in 15 years from now. I really don't. Like, I don't know if it's the electrification of cars that's going to kill it, or if it's just, I mean, kids don't even give it a license anymore. Like, that's not even a thing. Like, a lot of kids are like, "Oh, I don't care. I'll just Uber everywhere, I guess, or whatever." It's like me.
Changing culture.
Yeah, when I was 16, the day I was 16, that morning I was at the DMV,
My son does not like to drive anywhere.
Does it not blow your mind a little bit?
Let's see. I know another individual who hasn't driven, I think they're like 28, hasn't driven in their entire life. I'm like,
can't imagine.
How do you live?
I can't imagine that.
That's insane.
Yeah. Now, one thing about her that's interesting is that, so obviously I've been like, I've got cars in my blood or whatever. And then we meet, and her family is like way into cars, and she has a Cobra. So like,
she has a Cobra now?
No, when we met. So she's like driving like a a manual transmission Cobra, like what? Yeah, and then I had a sport bike, and she's crazy. As soon as we started dating, she went and bought a sport bike, and now she had a legit like real like high speed sport bike, not like some like entry level deal, like a real deal. Like I had to like drop that thing to the ground because she's still
tiptoeing.
Yeah, like just on her toes like this. And I mean, and,
that's impressive though.
But it was like so great because it was like, this is a person that like she can keep up with me. You know what I mean? Like she's willing to like, and to be honest, she rode her, like I kind of started to like, I don't know, grow up a little bit, I would say. Like I would just like not take my sport bike to work, for example, most of the time. Every day she's like, "I'm taking a sport bike." Yeah, wow. Yeah. She's like, and she would like roll off into Dallas, and I'm like, "Oh please don't die. You know, I was like, Dallas is a bad place to ride a sport bike, and she every day.
Dude, that's insane. That's impressive. Holy cow.
She's a gangster for
An
sure.
introvert, you know, but really.
Yeah, but she just is so competitive.
Yeah.
So like,
Okay.
everybody's like, I can't believe she didn't ride on your bike. I'm like, ride on my bike. She's like trying to outrun me. Like she can't outrun me on the back of my bike. You know, if anything, she'd be like, hop on. Like, you know, I'm like, yeah, let's go. You know, whatever. Like, I promise if there was ever a situation where my bike broke and I needed to get to somewhere else, she'd have been like, hop on. Like yeah, because she's not gonna let me ride like her bike. Like no, like. But we still we have a unique relationship in that, which is like we, you know, to our detriment sometimes, but like we're constantly in competition. Like, you know what I mean? Like if we're always betting each other, you know, like I bet you're wrong. Like
we played ping pong the other day.
Oh yeah,
really
I did whoop on her like a couple times on ping pong.
It was so hard.
Yeah.
Are y'all both good at it?
No.
We thought we
not
were.
even
Hey,
remotely.
we bought a ping pong table when we moved out of the country, and we thought we'd become pros. Right? We were like, we're the best ping pong players ever played. Like, and because we have no friends, so we only played ourselves. And so we thought we were really good. And we had this older couple. They were like almost 80. Not to be mean. I'm trying to be mean. I think they are almost 80. I'm just like,
maybe
okay,
at this point.
maybe they're 50. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure they're almost 80. Maybe they're 80 or above. But anyway, we go out there and we're like, we're gonna whoop up on them. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't care. Like, look, you're geriatric. You're getting the same treatment. Like, and they whooped us. Like,
oh no.
And I was like, we're not that good. Like, you know, I was like,
we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
Get back to
it
the
was
board.
so bad. It was such an eye opener for us. Where we were like, okay, well, we can still be in competition to each other, but we're not like joining the Olympic team anytime soon. I guess. Like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, ping pong's a fun game though.
It's funny, some of the sports out here, like, and you'll go out to a venue like pickleball. You'll go out to a venue and you'll see these older individuals, and you're like, we're gonna whoop them, dude. And then they're like the highest level of playing.
Have you played it?
Happens.
Pickleball?
Yeah,
but I'm like,
is it
not that good?
Like, I've never played it. I don't even know that I've ever seen it played. So like,
you've never played it?
Never played it.
You've never seen it played?
I don't even know. If
What
I've
about
seen
you,
it
Sarah? Have you watched it?
So
played?
I do PR for a fitness brand that has like a lot of pickleball courts. So I feel very bad, but I've never played.
I think that's something that if you like competition, it's going to be something that you would be
That's
interested
also
in getting into.
and the pickleball community is, from what I understand, is very welcoming and opening too. So
Yeah, it is
maybe make friends.
definitely.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should.
I've just been playing for like a month and a half, or maybe 2 months, but I'm not that great. But
Do you have to have like a good racket and
Well,
everything?
it's not a racket; it's like a paddle.
yeah,
Well,
I'll
Listen,
take
I
care
don't
of it,
either.
James. I got it.
I'm so like
we are gonna hook you up.
Okay,
with
yeah, I was
getting
about to say
into pickleball.
because like I'll go way off the deep end because I can't do anything 5%. Like I gotta have the best pickleball. I could be the worst player ever, but I'm gonna have the best pickleball racket. Like and I'll like go deep into that deal. Like so,
It's funny. Like I've seen so many friends that get into it, and they're like really good at it, and that's insane. Rich plays pickleball. I don't know how to gauge his skill level. It's better than mine, but a lot of my friends we
North
all
of
play.
me.
North of me, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not like I don't think I'm naturally like super gifted at sports. So like I mean.
It's sports ball.
At sport, yeah. I'm not joining the basketball team, the Jets, anytime soon. But I definitely like I like physical activity. So, but
It's a good community to get into. I think I don't know about the farming, but I mean it's definitely a good place to find a lot of good friends.
Farming is a bad place to find it. I'll be honest with you, because like it's
I don't
a bunch.
know. Baby is always very excited to see me when I bring out the
she
brush.
has a cow that she hangs out with. But we did pick like probably the most isolated like possible like hobby because like everybody, most homesteaders are like. They may be like in a strong community with other homesteaders, like that like are doing the same thing, but most of them like, they're very not into like doing any things out in public. You know what I mean? It's like always like, well, I gotta tend to the cows, and then I'm gonna go milk the goat, and I gotta do this or whatever. And it's like, which is great, I get it, but it's not like if you're not in that community with those people, like you'll never meet them. Like and so. Hopefully
Maybe you can find like one of the gas stations in Gilmer or City where you find all the old people and go sit down with them. Just start talking.
No, in Orange City, they're not old people. They're they're just like crackheads. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna be like shunned in Orange City now. Like I'm gonna have to cruise right on through there on my way to Longview now. No, it's really not bad. It's not. I like Orange City a lot.
I do see that a lot in some of the outer cities. No.
Sarah.
No.
There's no crackheads in Orange City.
I see. I don't want to talk about that. What? I see at the different gas stations. When we're going out to work, like there's a group of gentlemen, and they're not all old. Like there's some young ones that that are living, on their farms and stuff, and they just go sit down, have their coffee and drink for the morning, and
that's so sweet.
Whatever it is, yeah.
There was a guy in Fort Worth that used to do that, and he would open the door. Do you remember him? The DJ.
Oh yeah.
They would open the door.
Top of the day.
Top of the day. Yeah. Top of the morning.
Top of the morning.
Top of
He'd
the
always
morning
say that.
too.
Yeah. He was a good dude. He was really nice. Yeah. I'm always fearful too, though. Whenever I talk to people out here, this is so weird to say, but I have a tendency sometimes to try to be a chameleon, like because I think that's. I don't know why I do it, but but then the problem is I can't, I don't really know enough out here, but I can I'll be like, I reckon it's gonna be a good day today, whatever, and sometimes they'll bite and they're like, yeah, I reckon it will, and they're like, but then slowly they'll figure it out, wait, you're not from around here, are you? And I'm like, no, so.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
But I have to stop doing that. It's got to be me, it's like. But it's difficult sometimes, you just try to match the demeanor of the people you're around.
That's insane.
Everybody's like, no, I don't at all.
Oh my goodness, that's insane. Well, I hope that you definitely come across people that you can meet.
Yeah, you're like, I hope, but this podcast is probably not going to help you.
I hope it does.
I hope so.
I don't know how Rich would say my editing skills are, but they're okay.
Yeah,
I
didn't even know it was edited. She actually told me that on the way over here. She's like, I was like, I think that they last about 30 minutes because I watched probably 4 or 5 of them. They were all about 30 minutes.
Rich, what would you say they are? Maybe an hour, sometimes an hour and a half long.
Okay.
And then they get cut down.
Then she told me, she's like, they're edited. And I was like, what? And then she's like, you couldn't tell there were cuts or whatever?
That's a compliment.
Yes, I know. But I was like, well, I think he was just cutting out some or something, And she's like, no, I'm pretty sure they're probably longer and he condenses them down.
Well, I am the videographer of the two of us.
Very good.
I'm going to pull this one up. It's 4 minutes. I'm like...
just you laughing the whole time.
He cut everything I said. Every word I said, he cut it. Can we just put a deal that whenever the camera went to him, we just cut that part?
I would
save me a lot of time.
A photo of the
pigs.
No, the photo. You said you had a photo of him looking around our video.
Yeah, I think I have it.
Yeah.
If you have that, I would love to use that if possible.
We can reenact it. I'll be like.
And the letter, if you have access to that,
Yeah.
or if that's something you're willing to share. I would like to share that if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
You should include the part where you say that the letter you wrote was horrible. Here's a good version. I assure you that was said.
I have that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna close out asking you a couple of questions, a little more on the serious side, and then we'll end the podcast. You good with that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're good with that? Okay. I'm gonna remember your names here. Okay. So James, typically I would ask the person if the other person was here, but obviously Sarah's here. So James, tell Sarah what she has done for your life up to this point.
Gosh, I'm so bad at these. Yeah, I'm so bad at these, but Sarah has definitely always been my biggest advocate, and she's given me the push when I need a push, but she's also grounds me when I need that. And I can say without as a matter of fact, I might be a disaster. I mean, I might be a disaster right now, but I might be a real disaster had I not met Sarah. I have no idea. I don't know what my life would even look like. And I don't even want to imagine what my life would look like. I've lived some pretty crazy lifestyles. Sarah is a perfect blend of best friend, but also I don't want to say anything that's going to sound negative, but somebody who can set me straight, and tell me, like you're messing up, and I don't know. It's like my best friend, my confidant, and kind of my I don't know, teacher. Like
It's good.
Yeah.
I can tell,
Yeah,
keeping you fiscally
yeah. When we
responsible.
leave here, she, like, for example, she might say like, "You are a disaster," and I'll be like,
Sarah, I'm gonna ask you the same thing. What has James meant to you, and what has he been for you?
He obviously means everything to me. We've been married for a very long time now. I feel like it's been how many years? 13 years almost. So longer together, since 2007. James, obviously, as you can tell, brings a lot of laughter into anybody's life that knows them. And so obviously that is something that immediately attracted me to him and has definitely kept us very close. And I think that truly with anything, we just figure it out together. We're a very good team. Obviously, we were no kids before, so we didn't grow up with kids, or we didn't really hang out with our siblings who had children, because they all lived in different places. And I mean, together we've just raised an amazing 1-year-old. So
Awesome, that is great. What would you say has been the toughest thing that you guys have had to go through together?
I don't know. With IPF, you think?
I don't know.
That was a big one.
That one was, but honestly, that really wasn't as tough. Like, I would say our first year of marriage, that was probably
That was hard.
I really think our expectations for each other were like really unrealistic, like looking back on it. And I think we were both like very self-centered, like going into that. We're both the youngest child. We both, I mean, to be completely honest, we both kind of got what we wanted growing up.
We're both the babies.
We're both the babies. And like when two people who have that selfish tendencies like meet and, become a couple, I think we both thought it was going to be different somehow once we got married. Now, keep in mind, we'd been together 5 years and we had already bought a house together. We'd lived together in a house for 2 years. Why we thought that like things were going to be different after we got married, I don't understand. But
this last year was also very challenging.
Okay.
Yeah.
2024.
Oh, and that's actually
Is it 'cause
I
of-
hate to like interject a whole nother story, but this is actually really worth hearing because like the last year
2024.
Yes.
flips the entire script of our lives. Do you want to tell like how that like?
So we had a baby December 29th of 2023.
Okay.
And then I took maternity leave. I took 30 months off. And so I was at home, not online at all whatsoever. I log in. Somebody's stolen my identity. Like in the most egregious way. Yes. It was horrible. She hacked all of my credit bureaus. She made fake IDs. She was trying to buy cars, like all of the things.
Utilities.
Like when I checked my credit, there were 200 plus accounts that had been created.
Wow.
So last year and still literally this week I've called TXU about an energy that was set up in my name and all sorts of stuff. So it is still continuing and it's a nightmare. And we actually know who it was, which is crazy.
So that was a huge people
So
underestimate
stressful.
how much that wreaks havoc on someone's life because people are like, oh, well, you just have to call. And it's like, yeah, each time you call, that's like 30 minutes, an hour, and there's 200 of them. And then not to mention, they're still happening. And they locked her ID.me, which is the government.
So I couldn't file my taxes.
They locked her credit bureau, so when she would put a freeze on her accounts, they could go in and unfreeze it, and we wouldn't know. So then they would meet. It was like the floodgates couldn't be closed.
Right.
That was a disaster.
And by the way, you cannot change your social security number unless your life is physically in danger.
Wow.
Is
Okay, I
that
did
not
not know
wild?
that. I did not know that.
That was bad. But then tell them about the Pronovo scan. Because this is where it gets
are you familiar
bad.
with what a Pronovo scan is?
No. Do you know what that is, Rich?
So
No, we don't.
it's basically a full body MRI that will prevent you go in to see what problems you may have in your body. So like his IPF would show up or whatever the node that he has in his lungs, it would show up. So I lost my mom really young at like age 20. So I wanted to have this having just had a daughter. And I was like, I'll make sure I take care of anything and be really responsible.
Okay.
And so I go in for the scan and then typically it takes a few days to get the results. And
They said 15 days.
Oh, yeah, up to 15 days. And so I get the results. Somebody calls me the next day, and they were like, hey, there's something you need to know about. And so there was this big mass in my lung,
Oh, wow.
And so I did that on right after Mother's Day. That was his gift for me for Mother's Day because that was what I wanted to do for my daughter. And so the next quarter of my life was basically spent like going to all of these medical appointments. That was
They told her that it was cancer. It was like
lamb.
Yeah, or something. Anyway, that was going to kill her in like 3 years.
Yeah.
So
Here you go
legitimately, I'm now with this newborn, like very young baby, and I'm legitimately now thinking, not only am I not dying, she's gonna die. Like, yeah, I 100%. Like there was, look, I was praying,
it was bad.
100% that it wasn't gonna happen, but how quickly the script had flipped, and it went from I'm gonna like I'm watching her mourn my death, making very irresponsible decision, to now we had this baby, and now here we are. The script has flipped again, and I would say, to be honest with you, like it took a ton of testing, and like they had to do biopsies. She had to go through a very invasive surgery where they removed this giant mass that was behind her lung.
It wasn't lamb. It really truly was just a tumor that was growing on my nerve sheath, which is like literally best case scenario. They went in like with a robot. We went back to UT Southwestern and had that surgery, and so it was a pretty intensive surgery, and then recovery for 6 to 8 weeks with a 6-month-old I couldn't pick up. So that was very difficult.
But I do feel like looking at all of it from, trying to look from it from a 30,000 foot angle, the thing that kind of like got me through my deal, and like there's something I try to keep in mind as best I can, although it's so easy to regress on this, is like when I got 3 to 5 years and that Snowmageddon deal happened, there was this massive car accident happened on I-35 at that point.
Right.
And
I remember that.
A bunch of people died. Yes. And we lived pretty close to that. And at that point, I remember I was still living in this like, woe is me, like I'm going to die. And like, like nothing makes sense and nothing's worth, whatever. And I watched that, and I hate to like get anything positive from that experience, but I did, which was those people, like they could have had that. But they didn't even get 3 to 5 years. You know what I mean? They were just on their way to work, and boom, they're dead. You know what I mean? And if I get 3 to 5 years, like I'm going to start doing things I want to do, which hence like getting the property or whatever. But all of this just to say, like when you really look at life, like it feels so long. You know what I mean? But it can like turn on a dime. And
absolutely.
And the day after I got out of surgery, my dad died too. The last half of the year, I've been dealing with that because he was a little bit of a pack rat and had lots and lots of
it was super unexpected. Yeah. So it was, but you get in this mindset where, today's some inconsequential thing, and like you're so eager to live for the next day. It's like, well, in a week or in a month, or there's always something out in the future where you're like, that's when things will be good. Like when, I get the new job or I get the new car, or like, whatever the thing is. And it's like, but then we treat like right now, like so like, haphazardly or whatever. And like, I'd love to say that like we're good at this, like that we like treat every day, like I live every day like it's my last or whatever. But it's like, like it's almost like I feel like God is giving us these reminders, like really, we had I don't know if I should say this on the thing, but we had a miscarriage the first time we got pregnant, and
this was already in your time of you trying, like you're wanting to try.
Yeah. This is after the margaritas at La Finca. Not that night, so that did not cause it. But but like even that event, which was horrific, and I would not recommend that for anyone. But like looking back on it, it's like I feel like even the bad experiences, like if I'm being completely honest, looking like at the time I was like, this is the worst thing ever. You know what I mean? Like this is like really dark time, and but looking back on it, I'm like, my love for our daughter now, like it was almost like that was like almost like God was like thinking like, you're not going to value this enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I know like, I
completely understand. I think the viewers will know exactly.
You know what I mean? It's saying. Like I think you need to like, because I tell you this, I value it now. You know what I mean? And like I would have valued it then. Yeah. But not like I do now, because like I now know what it like. Not like I don't know what it's like to lose a child, because I never got to meet this child and all the things. But man, like these experiences in life, while they seem so horrible, and when you really kind of like compact it all down and look at it, it's like
they all serve a purpose.
And a really powerful one, one that put you in Far East Texas.
Okay. All right. A couple more questions. One is, what would you give? What advice would you? Excuse me. What advice would you give people in a relationship and who are trying to make a successful relationship?
Well, and I think anybody who's in a relationship will like acknowledge that that's an ongoing. I mean, that's a lesson we're still working on. So like, I don't know that we're in a place like I love her to death, and I won't be married to her until the day I die. But like I almost feel like a fraud like giving advice in that, because I mean, I can tell you what helps, is like giving each other grace, giving each other like understanding that like it's not always going to work out the way that you wanted it to, but that like you have to believe that they have the common goal. You're on a team,
Yeah, James says that a lot, so that's not news to me. The team, we're on a team.
Yes.
I think that it's constant work, and that's the only way it's successful, is if you just sit idly back and expect what connection you had at one point to continue to spark. Mm-hmm. It's not going to continue that way. I think that it's constant work.
Don't use the D word. That's a big one.
Yes.
Like, because I think that like so many people,
You
I hear people say it to each other.
You give it life when you say it.
Yes, and it's like it's so weird that like if I don't want to hear that word, like, because that shouldn't be on your radar.
Yes,
like, you know what I mean? Because if you put that on your radar, there's gonna be times where like you're like, maybe it would be, it would be easier, and it's like, no, but definitely like look at it as a team. Like that's probably it. That would, like, the more I think about it, she's right. I say it all the time, which is like, I'm on your team.
Yeah.
Like, I might have messed up, but it doesn't mean like if you're playing a sport with someone and they mess up, you know what I mean? You're not going to be like screaming at them, right? Like you want them to succeed, because if they succeed, you succeed,
right.
But it's so hard to do something. It's so hard. But relationships are so hard,
Last question for each of you. I guess I'll start with Sarah. Sarah, if today was your last day on Earth, what advice would you give humanity?
No pressure. This is also one that I'm personally struggling with a lot right now, but I just think being kinder to everyone is not, I mean, you can't out kind someone.
Okay.
Very good. James.
I've already said it, but I would be like, do it now. Whatever that thing is that you're putting off, like, because you might not get that opportunity. Like, now is the only thing that's for sure,
This moment.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, you can get a 3 to 5 year diagnosis and get hit by a bus tomorrow. Like, and it no matter how bad you thought that was, like, you might not make it 3 to 5 years, even if you got that 3 to 5 year diagnosis. So if you're sitting there thinking, wouldn't it be nice? Like, wouldn't it be nice if I did this or that? Like, do it.
Gotcha. Oh, thank you, James. Thank you, Sarah, for joining me tonight.
Thank you.